And a good Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for joining me here on Daily Distinction again today. I really appreciate it. Thank you if you're watching on Instagram. Max Armstrong. Hey, I'm going to be talking about FFA some right here today. So, wow, can't believe that you were here, my friend. Glad to see you. If you're watching on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, of course, you can see the video and participate with your comments. If you're watching on Instagram, it's just shooting off my phone right now because that's the only way we can go live on Instagram. But glad that you were here. Thanks for taking time to join. Scott, it's always great seeing you. Good afternoon to you. Hope you're doing great. And Pam, it is Taco Tuesday, isn't it? I totally forgot about that. So I guess we're going to have to make something happen there with some tacos a little bit later on today, right? I am batching it this week. My bride Tammy is out of here for a little bit, and so I don't know, the tacos that I make myself would be. This is a job for Uber Eats, right? It's getting this going. Hey, Brian, great to see you today. And I want to admit today is going to be a little bit of an abbreviated version of Daily Distinction because I have to cut out to watch something, and I have to admit it's me. That's so bad. I that is so awful saying that, but I do. I was invited by the Indiana FFA Association, and if you've watched before, you certainly know that I attribute all of my good fortune and everything I have a chance to do to FFA and the opportunities I had as a student as a part of FFA. And this year, for the first time, they're having their convention virtually. And my heart hurts for the folks who are state officers, the folks who are participating in awards contests and the like, because just the thrill of being at Purdue University and being in that, just the energy that's there and just the atmosphere that's there, it's just absolutely incredible. Well, anyway, they asked me to virtually keynote the event. I have prepared a video for them. And the program starts at the bottom of the hour. I don't know exactly where my segment is going to be on, but if you'd like to watch it, it's IN for Indiana, INFFA.org, INFFA.org. And you'll see some amazing young people there. Hey, Linda, and Linda is the honored and wonderful longtime FFA advisor and ag educator in my hometown of Crothersville. So, I appreciate that. There may be one part of that, Linda, that you're going to like especially. Spoiler alert. Hey, Scott, glad to hear that. That is so kind. It's so good. Hey, Curtis, great to see you, man. You are all over the place. Holy cow, you're from one end of the country to the other. You're in Portland, Oregon today. Good grief, Sonia. I'll be right over. Homemade chicken and noodles. That sounds so much better than ordering tacos from Taco Bell on Uber Eats. I'm telling you, that sounds fantastic. Pam, this is the time of the state convention at Purdue, but they have yet to make a decision, from what I understand, about what's going to happen with the national convention coming up in Indianapolis a little bit later on this year. So we'll continue to see what's going on there. Hey, Carrie, gosh, it's so good to see you. I would love to have you as a guest on here sometime if you could take 30 minutes and do that. Carrie Lorenz is one of my favorite people in the world. She is, if you are looking for a speaker at your meeting, you can't go wrong with Carrie. She is extraordinary, amazing. Carrie, I would give your background here, but I don't want to spoil it from you having a chance to talk about it. Well, okay, I'll send you a text. I would love to have you on if you wouldn't mind taking the time to do that, because the story that you can share with everybody and at a time it's incredibly needed is just amazing. Would be really, really critical. I appreciate that. So I know chicken and dumplings, man. My mouth is watering thinking about my grandmother's chicken and dumplings. Yes, and here on Instagram they're saying you're about to give the keynote at the state FFA convention. Yes, I am. I was saying I'm going to end this early to get over there, but I did want to talk about going back and doing the program for FFA. Made me think about something that I think is really, really important. And that is that we should be mining the gold from our experiences in life. I think many times we get so busy getting on to whatever's next. We hear that so much in terms of what's going on in the world right now. What's going to be next? What's the next normal? What's going to be happening next? And please don't misunderstand. I am not saying that we should live our lives looking in the rearview mirror. I am not saying that we need to obsess on our past. That is not my point at all. But I also want to make certain that we don't overlook the gold that is in the experience of our past. Sometimes we overlook some of the great lessons in life. If you've ever heard me speak, you know that one of my stories is about my mom and dad owning the grocery store in Crothersville, Indiana, my hometown. And a story about the day that the competition opened its doors. And where that story came from was a process I'm going to be talking to you about today. It's amazing because it really laid a foundation for everything that I talk about in terms of the customer experience. It's everything I write about in terms of what you see in the books behind me. It was the fact. But you know what? Until I went through this process that I'm going to share with you today, it never occurred to me that it was so important in my life. It was something that was in there, but yet I hadn't brought to the forefront. So I want to share with you this process, and I just kind of stumbled onto it. But you don't have to be a speaker for this to have value. It's for all of us, and it's something I think that will help you as you grow and as you want to expand wherever you are and whatever you do. I think that what we need to do is to spend some time examining our past. The philosopher once said, the past is prologue. Another one said, history repeats itself, right? What we can do through examining our past is help us create a more dynamic future. And again, please don't misunderstand me here, because I think what happens is when people say this, listeners tend to think it means, oh yeah, if you were lucky and you had a great past, of course you want to go back and think about it. You don't understand how I grew up. I grew up poor. I grew up disadvantaged, or I grew up in this particular way, or the world was prejudiced against my religion or my race or my appearance or whatever it might be. It's important for all of us to do this. To examine our past helps us create a more dynamic future. And part of the reason for this is I'm going to suggest to you it will help you spot new opportunities, or it will help you spot pitfalls that you want to avoid. By examining your past, and I'm not just saying about thinking about, oh, you remember when Aunt Sally did that? No, we're going to talk about a process here. And this is really going to help you see new opportunities for the future or pitfalls that you might wish to avoid. Sometimes some of the great insights come out of where you least expect it. One of the most difficult times of my life was after my first wife, Sherry, passed away. And because I had been her sole caregiver during her battle with cancer, I wasn't marketing my speaking services. I was just giving a speech every now and then just to, have enough income to, pay the bills, which we weren't even able to do. But it was a very, very difficult time. And so through that time, after she passed away, I had to, I was 7 figures in debt. Tax bills were still going to pay off. I mean, things that beyond description. And I had to put on my big boy pants to get back to work. I mean, there wasn't another alternative, right? I mean, you could pull the covers over your head and forget about it. But I started thinking, what could I do to make my speaking business stand out more than it ever has? I think I was recognized as a good speaker. I hope I was recognized as a nice person. But there wasn't any compelling reason why, what he talks about, we got to have that for our meeting. So I started researching what it took to be distinctive in your marketplace, thinking if I could learn how others had done it, maybe I could apply that to my own business. And discovered that there really wasn't much out there about it. There was some stuff on differentiation, but you've heard me say before, I don't think that's such a big deal. If I slap every customer in the face, I'm different. I mean, it's got to be more meaningful than that. So I started researching, what did it take to stand out? What did it take to create distinction? And it changed my career. That has been the focus of my career for the last 15 years. Had it not been for that situation, I wouldn't have discovered that new opportunity. But by digging into the fact that even terrible situations can present extraordinary opportunity, you know, I would give anything if that would not have happened. Anything. Yet we have to live in the world as it is, and I often think that it's kind of Sherry's hand guiding me through this sometimes. You know, that it created this incredible, extraordinary opportunity, and so what we have to do is to mine the depths of our experience, to mine the depths of our past. I just saw here on Instagram that my friend Betsy Blankenbaker Murphy has just joined in. And if you haven't seen it yet, I posted, as we're talking about this, she has an incredible book on writing, and I will post the link. And it asks you questions. It's a book really of questions that will stimulate your thinking and stimulate your mind and stimulate your thought as it specifically regards what we're talking about today. It's the best resource you could possibly find on that. So Betsy, I'm gonna share that because that's it. You have done extraordinary work there. So I told you we're going to talk about a process. Here's the process I would start you with, and that is just start small. What are the 3 biggest lessons you learned from your parents? I mean, there's a lot, and I mean, I realize that there are some people that might say, "Oh, but Scott, you don't understand. I had an alcoholic father," or "Scott, you don't understand. My mother passed away, and I didn't really get to know." I mean, maybe whatever it is, we all have lessons. They don't necessarily have to be these wonderful positive lessons that I learned this and therefore that. It could be something incredibly challenging. Oh, thanks, Betsy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Love you. You're the best. So I was talking about my late wife, Sherry, and Betsy, it's Sherry's best friend. So it's incredibly appropriate and ironic that you're right here right now. So the 3 biggest lessons that you learned from your parents, what would that be? Jot it down. Just think of, here are 3 things. And it's interesting to me too, how those can also form the basis of your core values. Or, you know, it could be something that forms the basis of what you decided, no matter what, you were not going to do. It could be one or the other. It doesn't, it really gets back to that question of, what are the 3 biggest lessons that you learned from your parents? Just jot down those 3 lessons. Then the second thing is, I'd suggest that you then consider, what's the story behind those lessons? Whether it might be a tragic event, or if you've heard me speak, it's the story of the day the competition opened with a supermarket in Crothersville. You know, what's the story? There's a story behind how you learned that lesson. What is that story? Because I think when you discover that, you're going to find something really critical and really important about where you can go in the future. For so much of this, I see so many books and so many speakers, and they're really talking about theory and philosophy and this and that and the other. And what we really need to do in more situations is get back to the basics. I really believe that, right? You know, love one another. I'm sorry, that's as good today as it was 2,000 years ago. Some of these basics that we're talking about are so absolutely critical. This is going to take you back to the basics. And this is going to firmly ground you in those aspects that you really need to consider. So just try to, what's the story behind that? And really dig more deeply into this great and vast experience that you have that is unique in many ways to you. That's part of what I find so fascinating about a lot of this, is that while there might be common threads, like you learned the value of this from your parents, and it might match something I learned the value of from my parents, But the story of how you learned it is different and unique from the way that I learned it. So it's part of your uniqueness. And one of the things that I talked about in my distinction book is I think people and companies run from their own uniqueness. We have been taught for so long to blend in that we don't realize the importance of standing out. In Australia, they keep talking about the tall poppy syndrome. Don't be the tallest poppy because that's the one that gets cut down first. And there's a lot of debate I love the country of Australia, and there's a lot of debate in that country now. Is that holding us back to a degree? Is that have we engendered that into our way of thinking to the point that we could be more successful and we could create more successful entrepreneurs and more successful businesses if we weren't afraid of being chopped down because we're standing out? So what's the story behind those lessons? Next thing I'd say is if you want to go bigger, write an autobiography. I'm not suggesting you're going to write this autobiography that's going to be on the New York Times bestseller list. It is a way to more deeply mine the gold of your experiences. So that's what I did. I thought, well, if I can get a good story from, the day that the competitor opened, are there other good stories that I can get? And it's fascinating to me how many good examples that you can get just from mining the depths of your experience. So you don't have to be a speaker for that to work for you. It might be something that you have in a conversation with somebody you work with to make them more productive, to help them. You illuminate a point for them. It might be something that you use on a sales call that helps people connect with you and see, oh, I get what he's talking about. That's really so. Write that autobiography. I'm not saying that it's something that you think is going to sell like Bill Clinton's autobiography or George W. Bush's autobiography is going to sell. No, trust me, it won't. I get it, right? But it will help you. It will help you in so many ways. Because the other thing is there might be things that happen in your life that you've totally forgotten. And the discipline of this, just saying, okay, so when I was a first grader, who was my first grade teacher? Oh, my first grade teacher was Mrs. Deputy. And I liked her so much, I started turning in bad tests. And she talked to me and she talked to my parents. And the reason that I was turning in bad work was because I wanted to fail because I didn't want to leave Mrs. Deputy's class. Okay, so what does that mean? I'd totally forgotten that until the discipline and the rigor of sitting down and saying, okay, so what happened in the first grade? And what did I learn there? And part of what I learned there is the importance of connection. But if you're a manager at a company, are there people that aren't doing the work that they could simply because they don't want to get promoted to another department or they don't want to get moved? It might be, right? It's something to think about. All of these creates aspects for you to think about. Keep a journal. When you start noticing things, you start noticing more things. That's not a very elegant way of putting it. But when you are willing to commit to the daily rigor of a journal or at least a daily planner where you keep notes, you start recording your observations. Some songwriters that I know always carry, they, on their smartphone, they always have the recording app on their smartphone ready to go so that when they get an idea for a song, they can record it real quickly. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and had a great idea and think, I cannot wait to get working on that tomorrow? And then you wake up in the morning and think, what was that? Where did that? Keep it. I keep it by my bed so I can just hit the button and just record it real quick so that when I wake up in the morning, I got it, right? Good ideas are fleeting. You got to capture them. You got to get them, right? Jim Rohn, the late great philosopher Jim Rohn, said that there are two kinds of stories. There are either examples or there are warnings. And he said, make certain if somebody tells your story that you are an example, not a warning. But I want to take that to another level. I want to suggest to you that if you can give someone a valuable warning, then you become a great example. So maybe a story that is a warning about something that you messed up in your past can become a great example to your kids or to your colleagues or to your customers or whatever. When you give somebody a good example, a valuable warning, you become a great example because you've helped them avoid that pitfall. So to review, we need to mine the gold from our experiences in life. We overlook many times some of the great lessons that life has taught us. And that examining our past helps us create a more dynamic future. It helps us see new opportunities, or it could help us see pitfalls that we want to avoid. So to do this, you don't have to start big. You can start small, just writing down what are 3 lessons that you learned from your parents. And then thinking about what's the story behind it? What's the story that made that lesson so impactful, so important? If you want to go bigger, you can even write an autobiography, but discipline yourself to think, what happened in my first grade year? What happened in my second year? Because I'll bet you in every single year there was some lesson or some story or something unique that could contribute to your future success. Keep a journal or at least a daily planner. Don't let life get away from you. Stories can either be examples or they can be warnings. Examples, do this. Warnings, don't do that. But if your story is a warning, then by giving someone a valuable warning, you become a great example. Don't overlook the value of your experience. You have paid a lot to get it. So why not maximize your investment? Don't overlook the power of your experience and the ability that your experience has to make more significant and deeper and more meaningful connections with people. All right, that does it for today for Daily Distinction. I appreciate you watching. I'm going to slip over to inffa.org and attend the session and listen to the video just to see if it turned out okay. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow on Daily Distinction.